Hi everyone, Paul here from FamilyWheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And has it really been 2 decades since the Lexus RX jumped up onto the scene? Yeah, it has. And since then, it's become the best-selling vehicle in the company's lineup. SUVs continue to be the largest and fastest growing segment in the luxury market. But maybe the RX wasn't quite enough for you. Perhaps you need a bit more cargo space, maybe a third row of seating, and you don't want to go whole hog to the more expensive, much larger, much more truck-like GX or LX from Lexus. Well, for 2018, there may be a solution for you, the Lexus RX L. Just over 4 inches longer, believe it or not. So I'm wondering if just that little bit of extra space, 4 inches, that's like that much, is enough to make this the superior choice for families. Stick around to find out this week here on Family Wheels. So by tacking on that bit of extra length and that third row, the RXL finds itself on the smaller side among luxury SUVs like the Acura MDX, the Buick Enclave, or the Infiniti QX60. But that extra bit of length does add an extra $11,000 onto the starting price compared to the base trim of the regular RX. So we're sitting at $66,250 before tax in a base version of this car. However, in an effort to streamline what's on tap, we also have a higher level of standard equipment. The car I'm driving here is the most bare bones version of the RXL that you can buy, and there's not much I'm missing. But if you want second row climate control, wireless phone charging, a heads-up display, or higher grade leather seats, you'll need to fork out an extra $6,000 for the executive package. And then there's also the option to pay $800 more and ditch that bench across the second row in favor for captain's chairs. That means you'll have seating for 6 rather than seating for 7. And unlike RXLs sold south of the border, all Canadian RXLs come standard with all-wheel drive. Now, of course, the big thing that's different about this car is what's going on behind the second row. And while it may be marginally longer in overall length, its wheelbase is actually identical. So it's as though the regular RX just kind of grew a bit of a booty and it's hanging off the back end there. But there are some dimensions about the RXL that really have me kind of scratching my head. First up, cargo capacity. The regular RX measures out 695 liters behind the second row. The RXL has 650 liters. Yeah, it's actually got less trunk space than its smaller sibling. Now, I guess those third row seats do have to be stored somewhere, but it means that you've got a fairly high sill in the trunk. That's going to be hard for the family dog to jump in and out of, and a big dog like Comox is definitely brushing her head against the roof liner in here. Now, our standardized trunk test fits just fine when you've got those third row seats down, but when you flip them up with that standard equipped motorized seat function, we couldn't even close the trunk, largely because that stroller couldn't quite make the squeeze. Now, by the way, those motorized seats, they take an eternity. We're talking 15 seconds to either come up or down, and they kind of had me wishing for just a good old-fashioned manual option instead. And once that third row is up and you've maybe read a couple of chapters in your favorite book, it reveals what is one of the tightest jump seats that we've ever tested here on the channel. Headroom is a squeeze, even for Devin at 5'7", and there is literally zero legroom unless you rob Peter to pay Paul and slide that second row seat forward. And herein lies another issue. To make way for the third row, the RXL has pinched up on second row space, taking what was a fairly spacious second row and trimming back a very significant 7 inches of space compared to the regular RXL. That makes our rear-facing car seat test closer than we'd like to see in a car in this segment, 28 inches from the back of the front passenger seat up to the glove box. To fit that third row in, Lexus had to play a game of Tetris here that just seems to sacrifice too much. But from these seats forward, you're really looking at an identical car to the regular RX. Great Lexus build quality, high-end materials all through the cabin, a super quiet ride at 61 decibels at 100 kilometers an hour, and a huge 12.3-inch infotainment system screen. I think I had a smaller TV in our living room growing up. The things I don't love, well, I find the seats a little too flat-bottomed and unsupportive, but I know that some people swear by them, so you're just going to have to try them out for yourself. To me, this analog clock here occupying the center of the dash detracts from and kind of clashes with an otherwise very modern looking car, and this weird mouse-like controller thing for scrolling through the infotainment system is finicky and time-consuming to use. Something else that perplexes me that's specific to the RX L is the standard climate control in the third row. I'd be worried about damaging this panel here while hauling around loads of stuff when that third row is down. And meanwhile, climate control, where it's far more likely to get used on an everyday basis in the second row, doesn't come as standard. Powertrain-wise, it's the same 3.5-liter V6 that we've seen in the regular RX for a while now, but for some reason it cranks out 5 fewer horsepower, 290 of them. Now, I wouldn't call it a screaming performer, but it's plenty eager enough for its intended home. City driving, a bit of highway cruising, and also towing up to 3,500 pounds. And it all gets pumped through a really smooth and refined 8-speed automatic. Now, those third row seats in this car add just under 250 extra pounds to the RXL, and that makes it marginally thirstier according to Lexus. We're averaging a fairly lackluster 11.5 liters per 100 kilometers over a week of mixed driving. So far in this car, Lexus has decided to stick with the less efficient but more tried and tested non-turbo V6. But if fuel economy is paramount to you, you can splurge for the RXL hybrid. The company suggests that car should bring your fuel economy down to around 8 liters per 100 kilometers, but that adds over $11,500 more to your price tag, starting at over $77,500 Canadian. Now at that price, you could get the larger, highly celebrated Volvo XC90 plug-in hybrid, which has the added benefit of a small but still helpful fully electric range for getting around the city. I get what Lexus is doing here. Not everyone wants a truly gargantuan luxury SUV in their garage. And the RXL gives you that extra bit of versatility that you might be looking for. The sacrifices, though, that you have to make in the second row in order to cram a third bench into this car just seem too high, especially since that third row isn't particularly usable. So for my dollar, I'd be going with the tried and true and the slightly cheaper option here, the regular RX. Unless you really need that third row, in which case I'd be doing some really careful cross-shopping here to make sure the RXL is the right fit for you, because it is a squeeze. Now next time we're letting it all hang out with a car that's really shaken up the Korean auto scene. We're checking out the fire-breathing Kia Stinger a week from now on Family Wheels.